If you are looking at Nasdaq and you are quite nervous about what is happening, me too, I'm quite nervous on what is happening on Nasdaq. So because Nasdaq right now is at the lowest point of its uptrend, so if it goes down, then it's gonna have a very huge correction. So we are worried about that because of the valuation also, which is quite high, and there is some relation with this bond yield. So they have said that due to this increasing bond yield, that's the reason why Nasdaq is actually going down, because of the cost of borrowing will go up very soon. So that concern is there. So today we're going to dissect what is happening in the bond market. We're going to look at the chart, what the chart is saying about this increase in the bond yield. Is it sustainable? Is it going to do some sort of retracement in a while? And what has been the supply and demand in bond market? So that's what we're going to look at in this particular video. Before we look at if this is the right time to invest in Nasdaq due to its low point in its uptrend, or should we be selling Nasdaq and because of the scare of the yield curve? Now, before we discuss about that, please subscribe my channel so that you can get more updates, coming videos from me, so you rightly get it on your screen. And then also do like and share, and also probably you can give comment about my opinion. So this is purely my opinion. It's nothing indication of buy and sell and all that. So stay tuned for my analysis. This is the US government 10 years yield curve. So as we can see here, the trend has been a downtrend for many years. So why we say it's a downtrend? Because it's making every time it goes low, it goes a lower high, and also the low is actually getting a lower low. So for that reason, it is we are saying that this is actually a downtrend. Okay. So anyway, we'll try to draw the pattern. So we'll take the trend line and we'll try to connect the high that it has achieved. So we can see that this is the two high. Okay, this is the two high that we have here. So that is the upper bound of the downtrend. Then let's look at the lower bound of the downtrend. We will try to connect these points. Okay, so I'll do a different one. Okay, this is the lowest point, I guess. Okay, that's the lowest. So we are connecting the lowest point. Okay, now it's more or less it is pointing toward the lower bound. So more or less we can say that this is a more or less. We can't be very accurate in the drawing of this pattern. So we'll just take we'll try to connect the most points that it passed through. So we will just satisfy with this. So we can see that these are the two upper bounds and the lower bounds of the downtrend. Clearly this is in a downward pattern. So the next thing we can look in the chart analysis is we can try to see the in the upper side what is the second layer of bound. So if you look here, I would try to connect the next bound on the upper side. So we have this. So we try to connect as many points as possible. So indeed it connects 1, 2, 3. So you can see from here it connects that point to this is the third point, it connects to fourth point, and then that's a fifth point. Okay, so and there's a sixth point over there. Okay, so we can see this is a pretty strong up the second layer top top level bound. Okay, so let me try to adjust it. So we can see here this is number 1, that's number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and then number 6, number 7, and the current one is trying to reach that high, the second layer on the top bound. So we have about 8 points, 7 to 8 points connecting. So that basically that means it's a very strong resistance point for the curve to continue to go up. And we can also see probably we try to draw a third layer. Okay, we'll try to take connect the third layer on the top bound. So we can see it passes through many points here as well. Okay, so you see this is point number one, few points connecting here, and then there are few connection touching there, and here as well, there as well, there, and some part of this, and quite a number of parts of here. And so that is our third layer of our resistance from the top. On the bottom side, we see that is there any more layers we can create? We try to connect this. Okay, that's probably the on the lower side bound. That is trying to connect many points down there on the lower side. Okay, so pretty much we have done all the resistance that this particular yield curve is going through, and the current one is somewhere here. I'll try to draw the circle. So we are currently here. Okay, so this is our current place. So we're trying to see if this yield curve is going to go further up, because as the yield curve is going up, then it is actually causing the Nasdaq to actually go down, and that is actually basically creating some sort of fear in the market. So when the borrowing cost is actually increasing, so the equity is actually having some problem to sustain its uptrend. So now that is this is in terms of chart analysis. We see that it is having a strong resistance in the second layer of the on the top bound. So it is facing a strong resistance. So this second layer, maybe I'll highlight it in the different color. I'll use a red color for it. So the red line is actually a very strong resistance point for it to go through. And in fact, we do have another resistance point. So if we try to connect all the horizontally, so that also, let me zoom it inside. Okay, now if I zoom, you can see that on the downside is also connecting this lower, that lower, and that lower. So we have three connections. So connection there. So there are three connection here. Okay, so this on the downside, this particular line also creating some sort of resistance. Okay, we can see the yield curve somehow managed to pass up through these 3 points of resistance. It is testing the other resistance, which is the second layer of the pattern of the from the top bound. It is facing resistance there. So generally, what we can say is there is a tough resistance that is coming up, which is gonna make this yield curve probably not be able to sustain its upward trajectory. So that is in terms of the chart analysis. We can see that it's gonna be a bit tough for it to move further up. But if it managed to move up, then the other high side it can go is all the way up to test topmost boundary. Okay, so that so there's a huge gap if it managed to pass through the resistance. The red line resistance, the two red line resistance are the key ones. So if we manage to go past through that, then we will probably can expect a severe kind of yield increase, yield curve increase, reaching toward the top boundary of the down pattern. Okay, so but actually if you try to analyze another angle of this chart, every time it touches the top boundary, right, it retraces all the way down. For example, let me try to draw the arrow. So here it touches the top, then it went all the way down. Okay, maybe change the color to green. And here also, when it touches the top, when it touches the top here, it goes somewhat down here. It touches the down. Okay, one way or other, it will try to touch the downside. So same goes for this. So from there, it touches the same way for this. So from here it touches down the downside here. Somehow rather it will try to attempt to touch the downside. Okay, then from here it touches the top, then it goes all the way to down here. And also, okay, the exception is toward these two lines. So these two lines somehow is kind of exception. So it after it touched this particular line, it did not go down, but in fact it went up, further up. Then it touches the topmost boundary, and then by right, if you follow the sequence of the past, when it touches the resistance, usually it touches the second layer resistance and then it go down all the way to down. But this time when it touches this around this area, when it touches the second layer resistance, it did not really go down, it went up. Then it touches the first layer in resistance. This is the top resistance we have, the blue line on the on the outer side. So from there it's supposed to be going somewhere down here, but that move is not coming yet. But as we can see in the past, sometimes it doesn't really move directly to the down. It hovers out around somewhere in the middle. It goes up, slightly up, and then finally goes down. So we can actually anticipate this particular upward move of the yield curve is not really sustainable in my point of view. It is not really sustainable because it might actually make a turn and go down and test the downside of it. So this is my estimate, my view that this yield curve increase might not be very sustainable. So this is one angle of I'm making this judgment based on the past patterns as well as the resistance that it is about to face. The two red lines here is actually causing a strong resistance around there. So based on that, I'm making a call that in my opinion, this is my own opinion, it doesn't really mean any buy or sell call and all that. I'm giving an opinion that it may not be very sustainable and it might go down. Okay, now we will try to do supply demand analysis. So if you look at the chart here, I've already drawn the downward move. So this is the high, from the high to low, then move back to high, then move down to this is the low, then this is the top of it, then the low of it here is here, and then it move top, and then it move low. But of course, each time it moves to the top, it reaches the lower height, okay, and the low is getting lower. So now we want to see how is the supply demand in this particular curve, okay. So we need two cycles. So a cycle is determined by a move from a low to up and then to the low again. So that will create one cycle. So we can see that here, once we have to take the recent two cycles. So we will plot our two recent cycles. So this is one from the low here to the high to the low. So we'll try to plot it from there to here. So that is our first cycle, and our second cycle is from the low here to the high and also to the low here. Okay. I will plot it. Okay, once we have already identified the two cycles, the next thing we can say is how much did it make the move. So the down move. So let's see the severity of the down move in the first cycle. So we can take the ruler and try to measure from the top here to the bottom. So we see that it is making like 3.9 points move. So we'll jot it down here. It's like 3.9 points. Then for the second round, we take the top there and then take the low here. So it's about 2.8 or 2.8. And then next we have to look at the, so in terms of the downward move is actually getting weaker. So in the first cycle it was 3.9, now it's 2.8. So it's getting weaker. So we can conclude that this is a weak downtrend. So the chance of it going further down is actually kind of minimal. Then next we're going to look at the power that it has to go beyond the low that we have here. The power it has to go, this is the low, so let me highlight it for you. So this is the low point that we have. So this green line that I'm drawing is actually the low point. So let's try to see. Right now it is making a reversal, or rather a retracement upward. And what's the likelihood of it moving down below the previous low? So for that we need to take the Fibonacci retracement tool, which is this. So we'll try to analyze during the first cycle. During the first cycle, okay, so it went all the way down here, and we will see how much did it retrace. So it went all the way from down to here, then it went up, so it retraces slightly at like 50%, 50 points or 50%. So the retracement was like 50%. Then we will take the second round. So second round is from this top to the bottom here, and then it's still in the phase of moving up, right? So we can't conclude where is it going to move, until which point is it going to move. But if right now the retracement is around at the 30, is actually at a Fibonacci level 38.2%. So if it retraces, if it goes up, right now it's going up, right? Let me draw it for you. So right now it is moving up from here to that retracement 38%, 38.2%. If in case that it made a turn and go down, so if it made a turn to go down like this after this, that actually will mean that the power is actually it has power to go further down, because from the 50% retracement it will actually will be stopping at 38%. So this is only 38%, how much the amount that it has moved from the low to up here. If it stops there, it's like it reached 38%. So it moves up to 38%, 0.2, then there's a high chance that this downtrend is gonna go below the previous low. So it all depends on whether this point will stop at 38% Fibonacci level, or is it going to stop at 50%, or even go higher. Okay, so but if in case it goes up to 38%, then the likelihood is it's going to go down furthermore, a lot more than the previous low. So that's what supply demand says, because what basically supply demand here means, when it goes down, it has a 50 supply, means when it goes down means there's a supply, that's why the yield went down. When there is a demand, the yield move up. So at the up point there was a 50% demand for it to move up. Then when it goes down here, there's a supply, then it move up again. So if it stops at that 38%, then we say that the demand, that is the recent demand that is having, is only 38%, comparing to the 50% it had earlier. It is actually decreasing demand. So when the demand is decreasing for the yield, then likelihood is it is going to go further down, and then it's going to go beyond the previous low, which is around, is like 0.45 level. It's going to go even beyond that. Okay, so things are still sketchy here. According to our first analysis, there's a very high resistance. When we do chart analysis, we saw that there's a high resistance. But when we do our supply demand analysis, we found that there's a less chance of it going down. But if indeed it made a turn at that 38% Fibonacci, there's a very strong power for it to go even below the previous low. Okay, so in my opinion, it may stop around there. It may stop around somewhere around 38%, 38.2%, because there's a huge resistance, as we saw earlier. There's a huge resistance around there, but let's see how far it is going to go. But in terms of Nasdaq, if you're a risk taker, you might want to do some investment in Nasdaq, because Nasdaq has already reached its low point. Okay, this is the Nasdaq chart. So try to see how is it moving so far. You can see that it has touched the uptrend point, the lower bound of the uptrend. So this is the lower bound of the uptrend. You can see that right now it is there at the low side. So this could mean a good investment point, if you believe that this is a clause I would like to say, if you believe that the yield curve is not because of the resistance that we saw just now in the yield curve. So if you believe that it will not go further up and the resistance will make it to do a downturn in the yield curve, then that might be a good chance that this Nasdaq, this to be a good buying point for this Nasdaq to continue to go up. Okay, so this is my point of view. So it's again your call whether you want to take risks or not. But academically, we can see right, the resistance is very strong. Okay, the resistance is very strong in the yield curve. So for it to go further up, it's less likelihood. Okay, I'll conclude here. So if you think that my video here is useful, please subscribe my channel. You get to know more videos when I post it up. You can give your comment, your opinion as well. What do you think about this yield curve? Do you agree with my assessment, or maybe you disagree? That is fine. So we can probably have a discussion in the chat box. And also please like and share. Probably others can get benefit of this video as well. Thank you.